All right, time for demos. We're going to first this up into two parts. We're going to first show you an array back in Houston that's running Rock as well, and so you'll get the chance to see what it looks like. We'll show you our VStack manager, which is our UI, and then after that we'll go into P-Cubed and show you the demo of what we got right here. So, and then after that we're just going to wrap. So it's moving right along. Everything going according to plan? Yeah.
One thing that I see missing: it's a package solution, what are you giving to the end users to do application deployment? Like, there's no place for applicate. Like, is there a thin app repository they get on that? Or?
There is not. That does go with our model through resellers, though.
Right. So first of all, the licensing, because somebody brought up the question before, the P-Cube licensing, they're trial licenses. The resellers actually sell the final production license. They'll actually enter in the production key, where you've got the trial keys going right now. And they have the opportunity to then also package together with that whatever, if you want to use AppSense or you want to use Unidesk or whatever you want to use, or in some cases they'll want to bundle a thin client, they might want to bundle Wise or Pano or whomever. So yeah, what we're doing right now is we're basically packaging all of the infrastructure and getting you going with your View infrastructure array. But beyond that, personalization and all the other bits, no, that's where we stop. Okay.
So does this 60-minute view install, does it include shared profiles?
No, there is an Active Directory.
I didn't hear you.
There is an Active Directory built in to the system, but in terms of personas and stuff, we're really not doing anything with that.
Can it be added?
Sure.
It's kind of
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously. In fact, we could even go as far as saying, hey, well, we could bundle in Unidesk and have personalization. We could create. We created. What we do is get a user to the point where they've got a golden image, at least our golden image. They might not like ours, but they could at least get there and say, like you'll see when you log onto it, you go, okay, great. I've got a shared virtual desktop environment, which is great.
Is the KMS server bundled in then?
KMS.
You can't do Linux clones without a Windows key management server.
No, that's a good point. So we talked about, so the servers are licensed. We license the Windows 2008 servers are licensed. The View, we've talked about that. We're allowing the VMware resellers to sell that. We're not getting in that puzzle. Windows 7 license, Windows client licenses, we can't resell. And neither can anybody else as far as I know. They're all direct purchase. What we are providing is a sample desktop pool that is a Microsoft trial. So a 60-day trial, so it's well within what somebody'd want for a pilot period. But then they'll have to go do that directly from their Microsoft supplier.
So
you can if you're
What's that?
I said you can if you're on live.
I thought best practices for VDI were to actually have shared profiles and personas and all that stuff. For at least our components. So
yeah.
Not having it by default tells me that we're having a non-best practice install.
So you're not. The thing is, you're going to take this and further take it beyond a pilot into production.
Like well, generally, what you do in the pilot ends up in production. So.
Correct.
So non-best having a pilot not follow best practices is not really a great idea.
The resellers are also the ones that are going to be, and the solution providers are the ones that are going to be finishing up that install.
So you guys don't have a cookbook that has all that in there?
No, not all the way through yet. No.
But you guys are planning on that?
Yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot of different paths we can also go. I mean, in terms of the best practices, there's a lot of, where do we stop? How far do we go? And we're not selling direct. We don't have a direct sales organization. We're targeting through resellers and solutions providers. So, we're working with them to augment their best practices as they deliver it. Okay. By the way, the feedback that we've gotten to date is just to get to the point that you're going to see right, like now, just to get to that point of installing and getting up and running. A lot of the resellers that we've talked to so far have said it's a few days for them to get to this point. So, getting it done in this far in less than an hour, pretty exceptional. All right, we're going to. You want to go to the demo?
Yeah, we can pull that up there and allow everybody to actually do their own as well. Yeah.
All right.
You can bring up your View client.
Yep. Which one do you want? Here you go. Let's try it here. I'll let you go.
So this is what we're going to do Oh, good, it's up there.
Sit down.
Chair.
Yep.
And you have instructions for this. The first set of
Well, not yet. You're going to do test drive, right?
right, but test drive's on their instructions as well.
Okay.
So if you wanted to connect your View client to testdrive.pivot3.com.
Rodney, those are clouds.
Finally.
Huh?
Somebody's marking the part that had to put them in. Now we know whose.
Not theirs.
So we have from our website. Well, you want to tell them a little bit about what we're doing with test drive while I'm getting this going?
Well, I did mention a little bit. So if Greg says, hey, I want to go to a test drive, you go to our website, you can sign up for an allotted time. What we're doing is we're really a half hour before your time starts. We're actually essentially booting up the environment. So that you don't have to sit through a login storm or a boot storm, whatever number of minutes that would take. And when you log on, you're logging on as the X number, I think it's 301st in the array. In advance of that, we've asked you what kind of workloads would you be interested in looking at. So we have a blended workload, so you pick one of 3 scenarios. When you get to test drive, you actually arrive on you arrive in a place where you can actually get a guided tour. Here's where you are, and you're going in from 2 perspectives. You're going in as a user of the desktop because you're a virtual desktop. So you're going in and you're able to experience what it's like in terms of doing things like opening up Adobe or Outlook or whatever, or even going surfing on the web, whatever, looking at YouTube videos. You can do all that. But you're also looking at it from another hat, which is you can go to vCenter and see how all the back end is performing. All of that is signposted for the users. It's very comfortable. You go through and you can actually go take snapshots along the way and put it in a send to folder. And at the end of the experience, we send it to you. Along the way, one other thing you can do is you can get asked, would you like to expand the array by a node? And you can, and then during your test drive, we'll actually add another box to the cluster and grow it from 300 to 400. So that's called test drive, and so far it's been really successful. I mean, we have lots of people who are interested in that, in being able to do that. They get a full-on experience.
So our typical test drive, you'd go to our website and choose one of the time slots available, and it's a very personalized. You get the slot onto yourself for an hour long. 2 slots a day, 5 days a week. We're working on another level, which is Quick Drive, which doesn't let you change anything, but lets you get the experience along with everybody else, and you get on anytime. So what we've really given you access to is Quick Drive. And if you were the handout we gave you on the second page, it has some words about connect to test drive with your View client, and then the connection server, which is testdrive.pivot3.com, and username and password. And by the way, I'm getting that. So there is a pool of, I think it's 400 desktops running, and using these credentials, everybody in the room can get access to it right now if you'd like to, and see and have access to everything that I have right now on the screen. So feel free to grab hold of that if you'd like, and it'll be up after this as well. So when the test drive comes up, you get a quick welcome test drive kind of thing, and walk you through that. I'll leave most of this for you guys, but to explore on your own. But basically, it's kind of a walk. The message here is it's kind of a walkthrough thing, or experience. There's signposts of what things you want to go try if you wanted to connect to the vSphere client, for example. Some of this is a little slow. I'll show you where to connect to there. It's a vCenter 48, and then just use your Windows client credentials. And then you can get on and see all the networks. And also there's one of the PDFs, and all the PDFs, by the way, are in this navigating test drive, but one of the PDFs is video. So, everybody in this room is probably way ahead of the average virtual desktop user, virtual desktop explorer. But these videos would show you, okay, if I'm on a virtual desktop deployment and it's on Pivot3, so it has Pivot3's vSec Manager and it has vCenter and everything, what things might I want to look at? So that's what the videos are. And everybody here is, I've sure seen View Center 1,000 times or more, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. I do want to bring up our storage manager briefly. And it's P3 Partner Exchange. We'll let that discover real quick. What you'll see in vCenter 48 is there is a rig, VDI test drive 2. So VDI test drive 1 is servicing all of our scheduled test drives today. VDI test drive 2 is a second array, and it has purpose. Will eventually come online, but today it's for this group. So it has a bunch of desktops running a lot of workload, etc. Let me take everybody to the vStack Manager for a minute. So what we'll see, it's in the process of discovery. And so first it's found just this unassigned unit, and then it found an array of VSAT VDIs, 3 units in the array, and this ghosted image means, well, the unassigned one is compatible with the array. I could add it if I wanted to. Hardware-wise, I don't know how to scroll that down. What I'd see down here in the devices is there's a pair of SSDs and then 10 SAS drives. Like we talked about. Huh?
2 fingers on the trackpad.
2 fingers?
Should work right? Unless it doesn't have a touch.
I'm more of a PC guy. not by choice. So if I were to look in the logical.
So surprised the guy who works for the company that makes PCs claps.
If I were to look in the logical view, what I'd see is 2 tiers of storage. There's an SSD tier, and so I have 3 VSACs in this array, so I can create that. Any volume I create in that tier will be across those 6 SSD devices. And then there's a SAS tier. Every volume that I create across there will be in the on the 10 times 3, 30 SAS drives, and then and really all I get to choose is how big is the volume, and RAID level, and then it'll level across. So that's a quick demo. Anything else I should hit? And everybody has access to this as well.
One thing I'd want to mention, when we said that we booted everything 30 minutes before you came on your test drive, that wasn't really to hide the boot storm. It was so that you can go back in vCenter and you can look at all the statistics,
right.
So you can see what happened all during the boot storm.
You don't have to sit through it is the point. That's the whole idea.
And you've got a limited time slot window, so we wanted to make sure you could have time to go look at everything that happened during that boot storm.
So is there a way you guys configure these things so that it's already configured so they're not using, or are they using your drives in there for the data on the virtual desktops? Or, I don't know, that's really, so a guy's running a virtual desktop, and he puts a file on his virtual desktop,
Yes.
Where does it go?
Okay. The way it is, I mean, that's really what the reseller is going to set up. There's one of 2 things you can do. You could install a VM on one of these boxes. You would carve out a volume as a NAS share, and then everybody would connect to that. Or in a lot of VDI environments, they already have their existing NAS somewhere where your My Documents would go. So we're flexible either way. You can either use this for your My Documents if you're kind of a small contained, or small installation, or if you already have that somewhere, you continue to use that. I mean, is that what you were asking?
Well, that is the yes. And then, of course, my required next question is, if you did the latter, how are you backing that crap up?
You would have to install
So
something.
you don't have anything built into it
No.
to handle that? Okay.
No.
So you got to go down the whole
Yes.
VMware regular old.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it up to the reseller to create the pools and decide where the replica is going and where the data disk is going?
On pCube, there is a sample desktop pool that kind of set up Windows 7, 32-bit, best practices for that. And then we have a pool a volume created in an SSD and a volume created in SAS. And that pool, of course, resides there with the replica image and the SSD and the clones in the SAS. But again, it's Win7 eval licenses. So, you know what, it's intended to be a sample. They could use those alone, just expand out the size of the pool, the number of desktops in it for the pilot period. But for full production, they're going to have their own image, their own license server, like you mentioned, and create it however they want to. But we are providing that as a reference for them so they can follow that as much or as little as they wanted to.
And in the initial screenshot, there was one connection server. So where does the second one come in, or who adds that, or there's only one?
There's one.
There's only one. There's only one for the array. When one of the things that we did very specifically, we started off, we said we could have, since we're an OEM partner with VMware, certainly on the surveillance side with the SX and stuff, and here as well, we looked at OEMing all the licenses. That creates channel conflict. The resellers want to make the money on the licensing and the services that go around it. So that's why we were very overt at doing this way with trial licensing and trying to configure as much as we can with trial licenses so that you can get going out of the box. Right. So, and that's been, so far, the reaction has been fantastic. I mean, the resellers are going, had you told us that you had an OEM in there, we wouldn't be interested. Just, it's not worth it to us. All right, so P-Cube, this is kind of, now we're catching up to what we've been doing here. Greg finished at about, at 10 past 2. The reason why it's called P-Cubed, it's production pilot, which is essentially kind of view in a box. And yeah, granted that there's more that we can do around it right now in terms of best practices and things that we could drive more into. But it's the initial appliance that you can use that is good for 100 desktops. And if you choose to want to continue to scale out from this without having without migrating to some other management server, you could do that. We are right now we're roughly at about $350 per desktop for server and storage, compute and storage. Okay. So if you are looking at it from a customer's perspective, this is a customer price. From a customer's perspective, they'd be paying about $40,000 for the appliance, which is all. So think about it that way.
And that doesn't include any of the licenses, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So you'd have to add the view. You'd have to add VDA, view, vCenter, license bits, and that which probably ends up being about $300. All right. Then you add, if you're going to add if you're doing refreshing using thin clients, you probably add another what? 200, 250, 250 bucks.
250 for a Premier list.
What's that? I'm talking about the thin clients itself. Yeah, 250 for a Premier list, but they're getting pretty aggressive right now. You can get it for a lot less. So what we think we're at right now, if you look at it completely, if you were looking at everything including a thin client, you'd probably be in the range of $850 to $900.
That's a bit pricey.
What's that?
I'm just thinking about actually have a customer that would be thinking about this. Not a chance. They can buy their hardware a whole lot cheaper than what you're selling for.
They can create a SAN with that and with failover and all the enterprise feature and scale to 500, 600, 700, 800 desktop.
They don't need to go that.
Oh, that's fine. Then they're not a target. I mean, we're not. One of the things that we certainly are going to get into, and I'll skip ahead, is that's not a target for us. A single device, a onesie, is not our target, right? I mean, we're in the range of probably 400, 500, 600 desktops. We're starting at 100 to get you going, but I mean, quite honestly, for us, the value prop starts at 3, where you can have a node failure, right? So we're not in the direct attached storage or direct attached device. That's not us. Nor are we at the high end where we're competing against fast paths. That's not us either. We're really in that segment where we're looking at the sweet spot in the range between.
So you're in the medium and large industry, not very small.
Yeah. Well, it can reach down to small. I mean, we had some folks that came by, Partner Exchange, and they said, hey, I've got customers, 40 desktops. You're not going to find this very compelling at 40 desktops, right? You're going to pay $40,000 for 40 desktops and then add view licenses, and you're going to go, wait a minute, that's a lot of that's money. So yeah, I think it starts to get it's attractive when when you get to 250, 300, 400 desktops and higher. Which is that small, medium? Is that if you're in France, 100 is SMB and below. So that's 100. But yeah, so it's kind of mid. Is the right answer?
I'd say mid.
Okay. We did. So what was inside the box here? We talked a little bit about it. VStack OS, the production licenses for ESXi and Windows Server 2008, trial licenses for View 5, and also the Windows 7 image. Obviously, they're all trial licenses. Everything pre-configured and installed in the factory. It runs 100 out of the box. This is what was configured and what Greg did in terms of part of the installation today. So this is what came out of the box configured, which I think have covered in somewhat detail. I think it's time right now to actually have you guys log on to the environment. So if you want to switch networks to the private network, you've got it on your sheet here, right? So it's Pivot3 Solutions. There's a space, right, between Pivot3 and Solutions, right?
Yes.
And then security, security key is Pivot3 VStack. And if you do that, if you connect onto that, you should be able to log on to this unit here that we fired up from scratch. Anybody done it yet?
What's the connection server IP?
What's the connection server?
Oh, I'm sorry. I owe you that. The connection server IP is 10019. And the reason we didn't hand you that out earlier is because we are bringing that from scratch. I use this as my DHCP, and I have a monitor back here just to see what address it got. So it's 10019.
Anybody connect? You did? First one.
You get a free server.
Oh, you don't? He gets since this is a baking class, he gets a Pivot3 cupcake. Yay! Sugar for you guys. Sugar.
Chocolate and vanilla.
Chocolate and vanilla. All right, you get to pick. Anybody else connect?
Were you watching Brian Madden perhaps?
What's that?
So were you watching Brian Madden?
No.
He's been getting cupcakes from vendors.
Oh.
It's a good idea.
Oh, no, I didn't. Anybody else connect?
Trying.
Trying.
Authenticating.
Well, I connected to your test drive.
What's that?
I connected to your test drive.
Oh, but not the other one? Didn't connect to PQ?
I'm going to
019?
continue
The
to
password's not right.
Yeah, what's,
I got to continue to
oh, view user. No.
View user.
View user 1.
I'm sorry. I changed mine, but nobody else's. It's view user 1 for the username and view user without the numeral for the password.
What's the IP address?
Where's the IP address?
10019.
The view user one is.
Oh, did we kick it?
Yes.
View use,
There we go.
Just that much.
Connect.
no cupcake for you.
Okay. You just also not that too. Great. It's okay. Yeah, sorry. Go on. Keep going. Everybody else? Yeah, all right.
1.9.
Pick, young sir.
Got it.
Activation period has expired.
It's just view
Activation
user
period has
for
expired? Anybody? Yeah, I think you just go through.
Leave off
Yes,
the one.
because that's those Win7 eval license.
Yeah.
So since that's a contained network right now, just say, well, I want to use it for an hour.
Was it 10.0? What was the IP?
10019.
10.019.
Are you on their wireless? On the Pivot3 Solutions?
Yeah, that's
wireless?
exactly.
You got to go to Pivot3 Solutions, private. Yes, sir. Robert, here you go.
Thank you.
I don't know. Check which one you want. There you go. Chocolate. Whoa. Pivot3.
I'm getting an unknown username or a bad password.
I got the same thing.
The password is just view user.
It is.
This is wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
Is wrong?
Yeah, it's view user. There's no numeral.
View
Sorry.
user.
Right. Sugar fanatics. Here you go, guys.
That's cute.
Yeah, isn't it nice?
Okay, Windows 7 disk.
There you go. You
I
want one?
always notice the.
Here you go, guys.
Those are good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You got it? Yeah. Right over. There you go.
Oh,
There's the vanilla. There's some there, and chocolate, vanilla, whatever you want. Oh, guys. Thought I'd make it fun, guys, right? Anybody want some sugar here? Yes, sir. You got vanilla or chocolate? There you go. You want, yeah.
10019.
10.019. Everybody else get one here? Everybody got cut.
So how much?
Yes, you want one? Would you like one?
so there's
There you go.
100 desktops.
Thank you.
How much storage is available?
Anybody else? Anybody else need some sugar?
So there's
Here you go.
10 300 gig
Anybody else?
SAS
Anybody else?
drives.
Anybody else?
So that's
Guys in the back.
3 terabytes. Yeah, subtracted that.
New dog.
Not plus one.
Vemon Sheriff.
So you got
Sheriff, that's why.
whatever it is.
More here.
2.7 terabytes.
Okay.
Really like
Hey!
If I did that right.
270 gigs.
Okay. You guys got the idea. So listen.
Should be like 27 gig per user.
All right, we're just going to wrap up. We got 5 minutes to finish up here.
Right.
Ouch.
So if you look at, there's a few ways you could think about that. You could say, well, I just want to, use 20 gig for my desktop. Or I could say,
okay,
you know what, if you really looked at how the link codes
everybody,
are used.
Confirm? Yeah?
They don't
Everybody's
grow
okay?
to
Everybody
full
connected up?
size, and you
All right.
refresh them.
So that's what we did. We basically came in, out of the box,
and they never expanded that.
And got desktops delivered. Obviously, there's more we can do in terms of best practices and things together with the resellers, but you can see where this is headed, right? So the next logical question is, gee, how do I extend this beyond one unit? Because we're not in the one unit business. That's really not where it's profitable for us as well. So, Greg, you want to talk about your slide here? This is your how you can connect, and we're going to wrap up in 5 minutes here.
So real quick, we kind of had this on another slide, but this is kind of what's in a P-cubed, the view connection server, the Microsoft domain controller with AD, DNS, DHCP, vCenter with View Composer, the management station I talked about, which just has management tools, and the vStack OS. The management station, that's on the SATA-DOM, like Bill said. So these two being on the SATA-DOM, they're accessible even if the storage needed to be diagnosed. As we start up, so there's a pair of gigabit NICs on the hardware. One NIC is being used to connect to the production network for production stuff. So as you receive P-cubed, it's the only thing going out the production network is the front end of the view connection server. And the reason we did it that way is all these components don't leak out onto the production network. You're not facing additional DHCP addresses and that kind of thing all of a sudden just because you plugged in a wire on Pivot3's awesome device. So there's a contained vSwitch inside. Then the management switch, NIC of course just lets you get to managing the SXI for one, but also the vCenter. So then all the AD when we deploy as a pilot, the first thing out of the box and what I have here. The AD's all completely internal. The clones network-wise are completely internal as well. So they're not out on the desktop. And then the PC over IP is routed through the connection server. Go ahead. So what might you want to do as you work toward production is go ahead and add a NIC to the link clones and run still connecting through the connection server, but run a PC over IP directly. And at that point, your link clones, of course, have access to your own production network, any NAS or whatever you might have out there. Go ahead. And then finally, integrating with the customer's production AD and using the users that already exist in the customer environment. Go ahead.
All right. So thinking about it now from a go-to-market perspective, we start off with this P-cubed appliance, but the idea is that we scale that out into numerous appliances and up to, let's say, even up to 1,000 desktops. The partner is converting trial license to production, which means that they're getting the revenue, and obviously they're doing whatever small services or things that they might want to do around that, including persona or best practices. And of course, they're adding more thin clients. I think what we've done to date is, in the sessions to date, is we've basically told you a little bit about who Pivot3 is, what we do, what our first market was. We went through the architecture in some details. You guys got a good sense for that. Went through a little bit of the reference architecture performance and some of the ESG stuff, which you can go and look at on our website. We showed you a demonstration of what's running back in Houston, which is Test Drive and everything. We then also did a live demonstration from scratch of P-cubed, which is our starter appliance. Which, by the way, is the first time we've done this live in front of an audience, so it worked, and it was nice. And you guys confirmed that you got there. What I want to do is really talk a little bit about driving this into the channel, and this talks about the go-to-market. So I think you guys have picked this up, right? Our target is for the 100 to 1,000 desktops. Obviously, no matter where you look at this, I mean, it's the sweet spot of between 100 to 1,000. So it's not going to be at the low end 100. It's really not a business for us, but it's a starting point for somebody to get to 300, 400, 500, 600 desktops. That's why we're part of the Rapid Desktop program. Our goal here is to talk to folks that are similar in nature to what we had in the surveillance business, which was, limited storage or very little, if any, SAN storage expertise, and that they're looking for a predictable budget process. Great markets for us are going to be education, K through 12, higher ed, government, state and local, healthcare. We're even getting some inquiries now from lawyers, actually legals. So it's kind of interesting. They got money though, so they're.
When you say inquiries from lawyers, you mean?
That's a good question. Right?
They want to buy things from you.
Yes,
Okay.
we don't necessarily want to buy things from them. Would be the other answer to that question. Yes.
Non-trading services?
What's that? Yes, right. Retain their services. Obviously, fast time to value. We're trying to, we're always looking at trying to maximize or minimize rather the dollars per desktop, and also try to balance off the dollars for the entry cost of the appliance. Right? Those are not necessarily the same. Right? You could say, all right, I can get down to $1 per desktop of $250, but it's going to cost you X hundreds of thousands of dollars of hardware. That's not going to fly in the segment that we're in. So we're trying to balance, between looking at what appliances we're going to ship in terms of what form factor and how they're equipped, et cetera, in terms of storage. For example, we don't use Fusion IO for a reason. It was expensive. We use SAS drives where we can, so keep the cost down. And yet maintaining the kind of performance and throughput that we need for the market that we're in. So just FYI. The value prop, well, we have on our website 0 to VDI in less than 60 minutes, and we think that that's not bullshit, since we just did it.
I think you proved it out.
I think we proved it out. Yeah. We like to believe that we can simplify VDI with linear live elastic scaling. What we didn't bring was 2 or 3 other boxes which you could have added, and you would have seen that thing scale from 1 to several. Obviously, reduce CapEx and OpEx, low cost of entry, et cetera. This is the slide that I think we spent a little bit of time talking about, right? Which is, I'm calling this SMB class, VDI with affordable yet, but enterprise class features. And it's more mid, it's not small. I put small down below as, DAS, which is the single server class kind of VDI. It's cheap, fixed capacity, it's got failure risks. That's not our segment, right? And that's not our segment. We're not talking about vBlocks and, or blade servers with a fiber attached SAN. We're not going after that segment. So you clearly see from where we are, we know exactly where our value prop is going to work and where we've got attachment. And by the way, obviously VMware are extremely excited about this potential appliance, or this appliance rather, because it offers them the alternative to what is Kavisa right now and the Zen desktop movement. In other words, when you start to get to 500 desktops, for example, with Kavisa, you're running out of gas, you got to switch over to Zen desktop. So there's a nice little positioning point for us right now, which you'll see on the next slide, which is this slide here, which is Pivot3 plus VMware View, is basically bringing some enterprise capabilities down into that, let's say mid to, or upper small to lower mid to maybe mid market, and that's kind of where we're positioned. All right, everybody getting this? This is just now this is more the business of where we're targeting it. Right now that you've got the idea of what we do and how we do it, it's where we're positioning and targeting. No surprises here, right, guys? I mean, from what you saw, this shouldn't be a shocker. Okay.
So I'm trying to get my head around one thing, and that is that, so really the value that you're adding is the storage. You bring those enterprise storage features. We were just having a chat over that extremely delicious cupcake, thank you.
Good.
It's about 27 gig per user available. So if I buy a node, I get 100 users, I get 27 gigs. Every extra node I add, I get an extra 100 users, so it's not like my storage grows. So, so I've got about...
Your storage is growing.
Yeah, but that's going to get consumed by the extra 100 users.
Yeah, that's right. So yes, correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So
It's a linked clone.
That is a linked clone. But so if I'm going to do a deployment, where's the user going to stick all their data? So but all the user data that they're accessing. So assuming that there is no real user data that already exists somewhere else, or because I'm thinking, in that space that you had, is somebody going to have to also get a NAS box for storing everything else, and if they've got to have this other storage device as well, would they use that for this, or that's too complicated because this storage is really for that VDI use case and that speed, so that's where you're going to commingle?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I think there are two different use cases. I mean, the use case we really don't support is if you wanted to carve out part of this storage and say, hey, there's a limited amount of storage that all these guys need. I mean, it's mostly task workers. It's a shared pool of storage, and it's not that big. You could carve that out, serve that up as NAS with inside here. I mean, if it's a massive amount of data you need access to, then yeah, that's going to have to be external NAS.
I'm just thinking like that those channel partners that you're targeting who are going to go in and say, okay, you are supporting 300 users. What am I going to use? Am I going to have to add some other storage to that typical style of implementation? And is that going to change the mix of the value prop? That's all I'm just trying to think through.
Might. It just depends on what their storage requirements are, and it might, but we'd be happy to sell more storage.
But how do you
well, you could actually, I mean, you can add boxes without adding users as well.
Okay, so that's
exactly
that's
the point. You could add
boxes without.
Right.
So you guys.
But that's
so you guys already
that
do.
could be pretty expensive.
You already do video.
Add to your cluster.
I'm sorry.
You already do video, right?
Yes.
Do you have? I'm assuming that's not built on top of ESX anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, it is built on top of ESX, but it is large, slow-fat SATA drives. I mean, those boxes start at 12 terabytes per box and go up from there for the video market.
You guys have the ability to provide
Sure.
any storage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 36 terabyte appliances that don't have the same compute capability as this one does with the same amount of IOPS, for example, but it's got a lot of capacity.
And I can add that into the same environment.
They would not be in the same array.
Right.
But they'll be in a different array.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
But they would be in the same environment.
Yes.
Visible to ESX as a data store.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could package a solution for that customer to do that.
Because it's not part of the same array.
Correct.
And providing overall space and performance.
Right. And then of course the other thing that we can also do too is you get asked the question, what happens if you get disaster? We can also work with DRS, right? With SRN, that will allow us to do some interesting, primary and secondary backup as well. So there are solutions that we can address across the board with this. Okay?
So the other question I have is, okay, you give me a box, 0 to 60 minutes, it's a pilot. Where are my stats? How do I know how that's running? Looking at vCenter is not necessarily good enough for VDI. So what are you going to provide for me to do this?
Okay, so one of the things that we're looking at actually packaging in there is either the endpoints or in the actual product itself. For example, Liquidware Labs, that'll give you some actual metrics on user experience. And so that's some of the things that we're looking at right now, packaging it.
Stratosphere.
Yep. Yep. That's probably the one that we like the most right now. Okay. You also, if you go to our website, there's something called VDI Configurator, and what this does is allows you to profile your current, if you're an end user or a customer rather, you can profile current users to determine the workloads, and we'll actually configure the vStack, in terms of switches, in terms of size, compute based on what your workloads look like. And that's a pretty nice tool. We're training our resellers to also use this so that they end up putting in quotes that make sense. We also have. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
It's better than half of Dell.
What's that?
It's better than half of Dell.
Glad you said that. Test drive, guys. You basically went on to a quick drive, a test drive. If you want, please sign up, and I'd love your feedback. If you do sign up for one and say, hey, that was useful or useless, or here, do this, or would like to see this, it'd be great. But it's a purpose-built. To highlight, VDI, it's a real experience, and as we said, you get to feel it from an end user's perspective as well as looking at it from a vCenter perspective. And to answer your question, we're actually thinking of putting in Liquidware Labs right on the test drive, so you could actually get some more meaningful. And when you download the View client, maybe we could actually add their little thin client with it as well to get the end user experience from round trip. So
are you giving? Is that going to be embedded in this $40,000 price point?
Well, we have to find out. Yeah, that probably would add a little bit of cost to it, but we could also make it an option for the customer, right? I mean, Okay. We're at 3:10, and now I'm really going to get markety here. These are the top 10 reasons why we think our folks are going to choose this product. Obviously, accelerated deployments, simplified deployments, lower upfront costs, lower ongoing costs. I mean, maintenance is pretty straightforward. As you add an appliance, you're not tuning queues, etc. It's performance tested. It's purpose built, plug and play, seamless path from pilot to production. And then we've got this also P-Cube that you saw, which is a prepackaged and configured starter appliance. So that was the extent of the PowerPoint slides, guys, that we had. I would be happy, and we would be happy to entertain any other questions. Were we able to communicate to you guys effectively what we do? And it wasn't too, I mean, it was a lot of PowerPoint, but hopefully it was meaty PowerPoint. It wasn't, BS PowerPoint.
A lot of the older folks had trouble seeing the font, so it was a little small.
Hey,
thank you. I represent that.
Seriously,
I had no problem.
You really need to work on your font sizes in your PowerPoints.
Yeah,
That
I would
was
agree.
painful.
Well, I'm not used to such a small screen.
Even if we
It
have
wouldn't
larger
matter.
screen in the back of the room,
Wouldn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I mean, you had pretty sure you had 8-point fonts.
No, actually, I was using 1-point squint. I don't know what the problem is. But you see, if I can read it, I'm sure you can.
Carry a handicap on a regular
You should
desk.
take your glasses off, and if you can read it,
I can't read anything without my glasses.
How long have you been selling the VDI package?
Okay.
How many do you have in the field?
Okay, right now we've got, we started shipping in December. We've got actual customers that are using it. 2 customers fully deployed, and we've got a dozen out there, and we've got another 20 that are on order right now. We've got, in APAC, we've got lots of folks right now that are bidding, including our partners. We have, just to give you an idea, we just closed the last round of funding, and we have guys like Samsung who've invested in us and other large industrial companies and stuff. So there's opportunities for us to take this very globally. We have a global footprint, right? We do business in Middle East, in APAC, in EMEA. So yeah, but we're just to be fair, we're just getting going, right? Just getting going, and so in VDI, and it's pretty exciting for us. Yes, sir.
Got another easier one for you. Can you make this slide deck available? It looks like parts
Yes,
of it are
I
on
sent
the
it
drive.
to Stephen. So, yeah, but if not, we'll be happy to send it to you.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
so you can get it.
actually,
All right. Anything else, guys? We have more sugar for you in case you didn't have enough. he's honestly 3, please. It's like, no. The V-Mug Marshal or sheriff's going to get you. All right.
Actually, the question I had is something from the here is, how's the pilot work? Is it something you have to pay for, or to do the test drive? It's free.
Yeah, that's right. The idea of test drive was to, and I'm going to come back to answer the question. The idea of test drive was to eliminate sending boxes around for demos because it's real expensive, and so we hope that you can get the full experience for that. And then what happens is that what we do is we hand over qualified leads to the partner, where we've qualified them in and say, hey, they're interested, they spent time, and so the P-Cube is a paid-for pilot. Now, what we've got though is some of our partners are buying what they call NFRs, not for resale appliances, and they're going in and doing this on, for the customer, and then saying, all right, would you like to, we'd like to buy one. So there are options, but essentially, our goal is to not ship a lot of unpaid-for appliances. That's not a very profitable business for us. All right. We like to pay Dell for their boxes. They like to get paid for their boxes too. All right. Any other questions, thoughts? What are your thoughts? Was this a good? This is our first time we've done this session. Did this hit the mark? Was this what you were expecting? Not expecting?
It's interesting for me. I mean, most of the environments I can see this going into would be almost a greenfield environment to do a pilot into, but a lot of places have their own SAN, for example, already, and it's going to be interesting to see how someone might just say, well, actually, I can go and you picked up my price thing earlier on, get my own hardware from Dell, dead cheap, and do a 200-300 pilot themselves. You know, that's
Yeah. Well,
that's
certainly
the problem.
certainly a pilot, you know, you'll be able to do. The question is, can you really run, you know, this kind of enterprise class SAN functionality for that kind of price point? You know, when you start getting into 400, 500, 600, 700 desktops,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, that's some of the religion. I mean, for example, in the surveillance space, we compete on petabytes of storage in surveillance with EMC class. I mean, we're right there. I mean, that's exactly where we compete. In this market, that doesn't make sense for us.
No.
The reason is that in the surveillance business, you don't have other than the very, very large surveillance project, the great majority of projects that we work on in surveillance don't have SAN administrators. So there's no religious entrenchment about I bought FlexPod, and that's what I use.
So, yeah, David, I could see people not wanting to touch their SAN.
That's
It's
the other
a pilot, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's working. Let me put this in. Get it
Well, no,
working from
yeah,
there.
I can certainly see that. I'm just if
No,
I'm
that I
thinking
know-
of the market as a you know a pie chart, I'm just trying to think, you know, how big is that, and how much work would it be to actually just take advantage of that, if you know what I mean?
I still think people,
I can see
for
I see
greenfield, they
education.
wouldn't want to touch their SAN.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why, I mean, a lot of the education markets, I mean, we were talking about, I mean, say that they've got individual desktops. I mean, they probably have a NAS already there. I mean, that's where people's data is. But they don't really have a SAN. I mean, they have a lot of notebooks and desktops.
Right.
They've got a NAS share. So it's like, well, we're going in to replace the notebooks and desktops. They'll keep their NAS, they'll keep their data right where it was.
Yeah. Good point.
And they don't have a SAN.
You have a lot of, for 500 to 600 desktops, if you actually have that number, I can see this being incredibly useful. If you have
Yeah.
less than that number, I don't see this being useful from a price perspective.
Yeah.
In K1 through 12, that's an expensive, you know, that's a vote at the town hall to allocate that type of money. And
Yep.
that money in most towns these days won't be allocated. There's more, better, I mean, there's streets that are failing, there's lights that are having problems, there's schools that need to be practically rebuilt. Now you tell me I want to spend an extra $40,000 for hardware?
Where do you live, Edward?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, though, right? Because
You got lights.
you're getting a view in a box, but that's it. You're not getting the peripheral.
Well, you
VDI
need all the view licenses.
Right.
Well,
So that's in the
Yeah, I mean, and in that
small
context,
percentage.
too, I mean, you're in a context where the kids are bringing in their own device, right?
Well, you're talking about now a couple $100,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that it becomes only a small chunk of that.
But you still need to, when you say I want to do this,
Justify.
you still need to, when you go to a K-12, they get the full price, not the partial price.
Yes,
No,
correct. Yep.
So it gets even more expensive when I need to get books for kids. So this is a tough budget.
You asked what worked today. I thought it was nice that you actually brought a unit in and set it up.
Yeah.
That worked.
Yeah, good.
What is the drawing for that?
It's how many cupcakes you can eat? No, that's right. We got a truckload outside.
That really worked. I liked you pulling it out, setting it up, doing it right.
Great, thank you. I mean, we thought it was, you know, you never know how some things, you know, could fail, but it worked fine, and we were pretty confident we could do it. So that's great.
Blamed it on Dell.
Yeah.
What's your support infrastructure for customers, or is that pushed down to the resellers and VARs?
So on the licensing, since they're selling the licenses, they're supporting the licenses, and Dell is supporting the Dell appliances, and we're handling the calls. We're brokering in between that. So that's how we do it.
24/7, full of the sun.
Yep.
Internal or external? Are you outsourcing the support, or
No,
is
we're
it
doing
your
it.
employees doing
Yeah,
it
we're doing
around the world?
it. We're doing it. Yeah.
The contracts with you or with Dell?
I'm sorry.
The contract support contract.
For the hardware, it's with Dell. I mean, it's through us, through Dell. I mean, Dell call. You know, we have to call Dell and say, you know, we got dispatch. And so they'll do it. Yep. But we're using they're essentially Dell, and they're Dell Business Critical as well. So it's all that.
How do you handle the upgrade to the OS, the VStack OS? I have to imagine in the future there might be a bug or there might be something.
Right.
How do you handle that?
Bug?
Yeah. How do you handle the
Just one?
Sure.
Go ahead.
You have to, the VStack Manager that Greg showed, I mean, you just go to VStack Manager, download a new version of the code.
Yeah. Yes,
There's a question from Twitter. Are you considering moving to a blade architecture at any point in the future?
It's hard to stick 12 hard drives in.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with blades from our from our perspective is blades tend to be storage light. I mean, we're looking for the compute and, you know, enough storage on that compute to justify putting all this RAID software on it. So blades.
Will you offer anything outside of Windows for management? Snap-in?
We're working on a web version of it.
Web version?
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to the upgrade.
Who doesn't run with it?
So you would do one box at a time. You wouldn't have downtime.
The way it is right now, you would have brief downtime because you could download it to all of them, but as you switch over to the new one, you do have.
They have to be all switched at the same time when they come up.
That's the way it is now.
So is there work underway to change that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there a version of this that maybe doesn't come, I mean, this is the P cubed or whatever.
Right.
So if I wanted to buy this for...
Yeah, it's the VDI box. If you don't want to have the pre-configured, is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, I like the fact that it's pre-configured as an ESX host, but what if I wanted to stop there and I just want to use it as, you know, this is an ESX host in my environment.
Yeah.
How different is the cost, you know, on something like it doesn't...
It's not much.
Okay.
It's really not much. In fact, there's the list price difference. The list price difference is $1,000.
Okay.
So it's not much. I mean,
are you planning on marketing that as an option, the non-VDI version, just the ESX storage?
well, I mean, so here's where you get into here's where you get into an interesting discussion. In fact, I was on a recent press calls with this week actually, which is when you do unified storage and compute. I mean, some people say, hey, that's kind of like a VCE for SMB. Well, sure, you could look at it that way, and we've had other appliances that have different configurations, less RAM or more RAM, or you know. But the point is, what we think works for us is targeting in the appliance to a given problem set. Otherwise, I get into tons of competition, right? For example, Dell. Dell could say, hey, I got Blade servers and I got EqualLogic box, and you know, put some services around this, wrap it, and send it. And I can do Exchange server for SMB right out of this. So we're going to be picking areas where we think we can deliver a very unique value prop, where it's tuned for that. So we've done 2, surveillance, and we're not doing VDI. There'll be others that we're looking at. We're looking at 3, 4, or 5 of them. That's why when I say, you know, like VStack for that, that's what we're looking at. Okay, but it's a generic. I mean, otherwise, I think the issue you get when you're generic is that there's just too much competition, too much noise.
But I mean, right now, that market is kind of up and coming.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you could be establishing yourself in a whole new market. And yeah, you're right. Dell could come in and bolt on something to EqualLogic, or IBM could do something, or HP. But you're there.
Right. And so
I understand what you're saying. I'm just.
It's just picking that application that we think we can. You know, is it SharePoint? Is it Office? Is it, you know, which one of those, or is it, you know, something different?
What can you say? What you're looking at?
We're looking at those. We're looking at, you know, we're looking at disaster recovery. You know, like for example, we're looking at is that an opportunity for us? You know, we have the opportunity, for example, to look at big data from a different, you know, because since we are a pretty darn good data box, right? The question here is, since you're running VMs on it, is there an opportunity to bring slice and dice applications right down onto the storage appliance, you know, and using massive parallelism that we've got? Is that an advantage? So there are 4 or 5 of these little segments that we're looking at, that we're studying, that make sense to us, that, you know, that we could look at. Right?
And as hard as it might be, do you even entertain the idea of making the VStack appliance available as kind of a VSA? Because this is what I think this is what we all wish, like, the VSAs out there would do, this kind of parallelism, and they just don't.
Right.
So,
boy, I tell you, there's more than a ton of conversation about that internally. I'll let Bill speak. Is there?
We've obviously been thinking about that and working on that.
I mean, logistically, I know it would be very difficult.
The current problem, and there are ways to get around that, and we're actively working on the ways to get around that. But the 16 gig SATA DOM that's in there today, I mean, you can't buy a server from Dell with that SATA DOM already in there. I mean, the storage that's going to contain ESX and RVM. So if you were to just say, hey, meet in the channel, hey, go order this server from Dell, order software from us, put them together. You can order a server that's 99% what you need.
And I could go to Central Computer and buy a 16 gig SATA DOM.
Right.
It'd be a couple $100, but they can be acquired.
Yeah, but then it becomes a little clunky, right? From if you're trying to, it's not.
The support becomes a nightmare.
Exactly, exactly. And so we wanted to make sure that when we deliver it, it's supported and works. That's where we are on that. So we're still that's certainly a goal for us, is to deliver it as a software model. I mean, that'd be great. It's and having a hardware compatibility list that you could then pick from, and then off you go. Right? Yes, sir.
You're limited to 8 nodes for VDI, but 12 nodes as a system.
Right.
Is that a technical limitation of essentially your RAID implementation, or
our RAID, the way we've architected our RAID implementation is, it's not architected for thousands. I mean, there are other systems that have been put together. Our limit is what we've architected for is 32. Up to this point, we haven't felt a need. I mean, the test matrix become a lot harder. I mean, the code itself would know how to work to 32. The test matrix has become much more complicated and long, and the amount of equipment you need in your lab to do those tests goes up. So if the market were to say, hey, we want to see more than 12, we can easily go up to 32.
So, like you're talking like big data, stuff like that, like Hadoop.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You might want more than 12 nodes.
Yes.
So
yes.
if that was a technical limitation, it could be a showstopper.
And that's part and parcel of looking at that segment, is expanding the node count. That's exactly right.
Great.
Yep. Yep. Any other questions? No? Thank you, guys. Thanks for all your time. Appreciate it.